Philip II of Spain, a king of immense power. He ruled over a vast empire. Spain was at its zenith. Its coffers overflowed with New World gold. Philip saw himself as a defender of Catholicism. He was married to Mary, Queen of England. Mary's reign was short. She died in 1558. Her Protestant half-sister, Elizabeth I, took the throne. This angered Philip. He believed he had a claim. He also saw Elizabeth as a heretic. The tension between them grew. It was a clash of religions, a clash of empires. Philip was a devout Catholic. He saw the Protestant Reformation as a threat. He wanted to restore Catholicism in England. He believed invading England was God's work. He aimed to depose Elizabeth. He planned to place a Catholic monarch on the throne. England was a tempting prize. It was a rich and powerful nation. Its defeat would be a major blow to Protestantism. The invasion was not just about religion. It was also about power. Philip wanted to break England's naval strength. He sought to solidify Spain's dominance at sea. In 1588, Philip launched the Spanish Armada. It was a mighty fleet of over 130 ships. The Armada carried thousands of soldiers and sailors. The Duke of Medina Sidonia, a seasoned commander, led the fleet. The Spanish plan was complex. The Armada would sail up the English Channel. It would meet with a Spanish army in Flanders. Together, they would cross the English Channel and invade England. Elizabeth and her advisors knew the danger. They prepared for war. They assembled a fleet of warships. They rallied their troops. The fate of England hung in the balance. Imagine a different outcome. Picture the Spanish Armada succeeding. The English ships, outmaneuvered and outgunned, the Spanish landing on English shores, London falling to the Duke of Medina Sidonia, Elizabeth I captured or fleeing to France, England, once a beacon of Protestantism, now under Spanish control. The news would shake Europe. A victory of this magnitude would have been a turning point in history. It would have reshaped the political and religious landscape of Europe and beyond. Section 5. England under the Spanish Hapsburgs. With Elizabeth deposed, Philip would place a Catholic monarch on the English throne, perhaps one of his own children. England would become a vassal state of Spain. English laws and customs would be replaced with Spanish ones. The Catholic Church would be restored. English Protestants would face persecution. Many would flee. Others would practice their faith in secret. The English spirit, however, would not be easily broken. Resistance would simmer. It would be a long and bloody struggle for freedom. Section 6. A Counter-Reformation in England. With England under Catholic rule, the Reformation would suffer a major setback. The Church of England, as established by Henry VIII and molded by Elizabeth, would be dismantled. The Pope's authority would be restored. The Catholic Church would regain its lost power. Catholicism would be imposed on the English people. Priests would fan out across the land. They would preach from the pulpits. They would seek to convert the populace. But would the English people truly embrace Catholicism after experiencing the Reformation? Or would resentment fester beneath the surface? Section 7. The sun never sets. On the Spanish Empire? A Spanish victory in 1588 could have had a profound impact on colonization. England, subdued, would not become the dominant naval power. Spain would be free to expand its empire. It would face less resistance in the New World. North America, perhaps, would be dominated by Spain. The English colonies, starved of support, might wither. Spain, already rich, would grow even wealthier. It would control the trade routes. Its influence would be unmatched. Section 8. A world painted Spanish. Imagine a world shaped by Spanish power. The gold and silver of the Americas flowing into Spanish coffers. Spanish art, music, and literature flourishing. The Spanish language, the language of diplomacy and trade. The balance of power would shift dramatically. Spain would dominate Europe. France, England's traditional ally, would be threatened. The Ottoman Empire, already feeling pressure from the Hapsburgs, would face a more formidable foe. The course of global history would be irrevocably altered. Section 9. Echoes of a Spanish Century. The defeat of the Spanish Armada was a defining moment. It marked the beginning of the decline of Spanish power. It paved the way for the rise of England. But what if things had gone differently? A Spanish victory would have had far-reaching consequences. It would have reshaped the political, religious, and cultural landscape of the world. We might live in a world where English is a minority language, where the Americas are dominated by Spanish culture, where the sun never set on the Spanish Empire. It is a thought-provoking counterfactual. It reminds us of the fragility of history. It shows how one event can alter the course of civilization. Gap 2S. Chapter 10. The Aftermath of Victory. The Spanish Armada's victory over England would have set the stage for a dramatically different world. Spain, already a dominant force, would have solidified its control over the seas and beyond. The immediate aftermath would have seen the imposition of Spanish rule over England, bringing with it a wave of Catholicism and Spanish customs. Gap 2S. In the streets of London, Spanish soldiers would have marched, their presence a constant reminder of the new order. The English language and Protestant faith might have been suppressed, replaced by Spanish and Catholic practices. Gap 3S. Economically, Spanish influence would have redirected the flow of wealth, with English resources funneled into the Spanish crown. The cultural exchange would have been profound, with art, literature, and architecture bearing the unmistakable mark of Spanish styles. Gap 3S. Globally, the balance of power would have shifted. Spanish territories in the Americas would have expanded unchallenged, their influence stretching from the tip of South America to the northern reaches of Canada. Gap 2S. The legacy of such a victory would be a world where Spanish culture and power dominated, a testament to the might of the Spanish Empire. It is a sobering reminder of how the tides of history can turn on a single event, reshaping the destiny of nations and peoples. Gap 2S. As we reflect on this alternate history, we are reminded of the enduring impact of the Spanish Empire, a force that once shaped the world and continues to echo through the corridors of time. Chapter 11. The New World Order. Gap 2S. With Spain's firm grip over England, the geopolitical landscape of Europe and the world underwent a seismic shift. Gap 2S. The once mighty England, now a vassal state, contributed its naval prowess to the expanding Spanish Armada, creating an unstoppable maritime force. Gap 3S. The Spanish Hapsburgs, emboldened by their triumph, turned their eyes towards the rest of Europe, asserting their dominance over rival nations. Gap 2S. France, the Holy Roman Empire, and the Italian states all felt the pressure of Spanish supremacy, leading to a delicate balance of power maintained through political marriages and strategic alliances. Gap 3S. The global stage was set for a century of Spanish dominance, with trade routes secured and colonies flourishing under the banner of the Spanish Empire. Gap 2S. The cultural and religious landscape was irrevocably altered, with the Counter-Reformation gaining ground and Catholicism spreading far and wide. Gap 3S. In this new world order, the Spanish Empire stood as a beacon of power and influence, its legacy etched into the annals of history. Gap 2S. As we ponder this alternate reality, we are reminded of the fragile nature of power and the ever-changing tides of history. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into Chapter 12, which is all about the Spanish Golden Age. Gap 2S. Imagine this. Spain is on top of the world, literally. They had so much power and influence, and things were going really well for them. This period became known as the Golden Age because it was a time of incredible wealth and amazing achievements in art and culture. Gap 2S. Think about famous painters like Diego Velázquez. His paintings were like nothing anyone had ever seen before. And then there was Miguel de Cervantes, who wrote the amazing novel Don Quixote. These guys were like superstars of their time. Gap 3S. All the gold and silver that Spain was bringing back from the Americas made them super rich. They used this wealth to build incredible buildings and make their cities, like Madrid and Seville, absolutely stunning. Gap 2S. Education was also booming during this time. Universities became really important and people were making groundbreaking discoveries in science, literature, you name it. Gap 3S. And get this, the Spanish Armada, their navy, was the strongest in the world. They basically ruled the seas, making sure that goods and ideas could travel safely all over the globe. Gap 2S. It was a time when different cultures came together in Spain, creating a vibrant mix of people and ideas. It was like a melting pot of creativity and innovation. Gap 3S. But even in paradise, there can be trouble brewing. All this success came at a price. Running such a huge empire was expensive, and the Spanish government was starting to feel the strain. Gap 2S. But even though the good times didn't last forever, the the Spanish Golden Age left behind an incredible legacy. It reminds us that even though empires may fade, the amazing things that people create, their art, their ideas, their stories, those things can last forever. Gap 3, S. So as we think about the Spanish Golden Age, let's remember that true greatness lies not just in power, but in the lasting impact we have on the world through our creativity and our minds. Hey everyone! So we've been talking about Spain's Golden Age, right? All that glitz and glamour? Well, like all good things, it eventually came to an end. Things started to go downhill. Gap 2S. Spain had been super rich thanks to all the gold and silver coming from the Americas. But that started to dry up, and when the money went, so did their power. They got into a lot of fights, wars, both at home and overseas. These wars cost a ton of money, and Spain ended up in huge debt. Gap 3S. Remember how powerful their navy, the Spanish Armada, used to be? They ruled the waves. Well, they started losing battles, most famously against the English in 1588. That was a big turning point. Gap 3S. They went from being unbeatable to, well, beatable. Gap 2S. And things weren't much better back home in Spain. The government was corrupt, and the king couldn't really manage such a huge empire. Gap 3S. Then, in 1609, they made a big mistake. They kicked out a group of people called the Moriscos. These folks were really good at farming and making things, so when they left, the Spanish economy took another hit. Gap 2S. People were getting angry. Taxes were high, times were tough, and everyone was feeling the pressure. So, there were a lot of protests and uprisings. Gap 3S. But even though things were bad, the Spanish people didn't give up. They kept making art, kept making discoveries, and left a really important mark on the world. Gap 2S. Spain's story reminds us that even the strongest empires can crumble. But the cool things they create, the art, the ideas, those things stick around long after the kings and queens are gone. Gap 3S. So yeah, Spain's power faded, but their spirit lived on. They left a legacy that's still with us today. Gap 2S. The decline of the Spanish Empire marked the end of an era, but the legacy of the Spanish Armada still echoes through history. Gap 3S. When we think of the Armada, we often recall its defeat, but its story is far richer than a single battle. Gap 2S. The Armada represented Spain's ambition, its naval prowess, and its quest for global dominance. Gap 3S. Even in defeat, it changed the course of history. Gap 2S. The Armada's voyages spurred advancements in navigation and shipbuilding, influencing maritime practices for centuries. Gap 3S. And though Spain's naval supremacy waned, its cultural and scientific contributions endured. Gap 2S. The Armada taught the world about resilience and the fleeting nature of power. Gap 3S. It remains a symbol of both triumph and tragedy, a testament to human ambition and the ever-changing tides of history. Gap 2S. In its wake, the world was forever altered, and the echoes of its legacy continue to resonate today. Gap 2S. The Spanish Armada's legacy extends far beyond its historical context, casting a long shadow over modern naval warfare. Gap 3S. The tactics, strategies, and innovations introduced during its campaign have left an indelible mark on naval history. Gap 2S. The Armada's emphasis on large, heavily armed ships and the use of coordinated fleet maneuvers set new standards for naval engagements. Gap 3S. These principles can still be seen in the design and operation of contemporary naval forces. Gap 2S. The lessons learned from the Armada's failures and successes have informed naval doctrines and training programs worldwide. Gap 3S. In many ways, the Armada was a catalyst for the evolution of naval warfare, pushing nations to rethink and refine their maritime strategies. Gap 2S. The impact of the Spanish Armada on modern naval tactics underscores the enduring relevance of this historic fleet. Gap 3S. As we continue to navigate the complex waters of global conflict, the Armada's influence reminds us of the importance of innovation, resilience, and strategic foresight in the ever-evolving theater of naval warfare. Gap 2S. The defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 marked a turning point not only in naval history, but also in the cultural landscape of Europe. Gap 3S. This monumental event catalyzed a series of cultural shifts that reverberated across the continent. Gap 2S. In England, the victory was celebrated as a divine endorsement of Protestantism, bolstering national pride and solidifying the country's identity. Gap 3S. Literature and the arts flourished. with figures like William Shakespeare drawing inspiration from the Triumph to create works that still resonate today. Gap 2S. Across Europe, the balance of power began to shift. Gap 3S. The perceived invincibility of the Spanish Empire was shattered, leading to an emboldening of other nations to challenge Spanish dominance. Gap 2S. This newfound confidence spurred a wave of exploration and colonization as countries like England, France, and the Netherlands sought to expand their influence and territories. Gap 3S. The defeat also had profound effects within Spain. Gap 2S. The loss forced a reevaluation of Spanish military and political strategies, leading to internal reforms and a more cautious approach to international conflicts. Gap 3S. In the broader cultural context, the failure of the Armada served as a powerful reminder of the limits of human ambition and the unpredictable nature of warfare. Gap 2S. This humbling experience influenced philosophical and theological debates, fostering a more introspective and questioning European society. Gap 3S. Thus, the cultural shifts following the Armada's defeat were as significant as the military consequences, shaping the trajectory of European history for centuries to come. Gap 2S. The echoes of this pivotal moment continue to influence our cultural and historical understanding, reminding us of the interconnectedness of military and societal transformations. Gap 2S. Imagine if Spain's Armada had won and taken over everything. Things would have been way different. Gap 3S. Spain would have controlled the oceans, meaning they'd be the only ones trading with the New World. Think of all the gold and silver. Gap 3S. But here's the catch. Too much gold can be a bad thing. Prices would go way up. That's called inflation. And everyone in Spain would have a hard time buying things. Other countries like England and the Netherlands would be left out. So they'd have to find new ways to make money, like starting their own colonies and building up their industries. Spain having all the power would also cause a lot of jealousy. Other countries would want some of that wealth, leading to fights and wars. And even in Spain, things wouldn't be perfect. All the gold and silver would mostly go to the rich people, making the poor even poorer. That's never a good mix. So even though Spain would be super powerful, they'd also have lots of problems. It just goes to show that having tons of money and power doesn't always mean everything is great. With Spain's dominance over Europe firmly established, the role of religion in the new Spanish Empire became a cornerstone of its identity. The Catholic Church, already a powerful force, found its influence expanding even further. Spain, under the Hapsburgs, championed the Counter-Reformation, a movement aimed at reaffirming Catholic doctrines and curbing the spread of Protestantism. Gap 3S. Churches and cathedrals sprang up across the Spanish territories, from the Iberian Peninsula to the newly conquered lands in the Americas. Missionaries were dispatched to convert indigenous populations, often with forceful zeal. The Inquisition, notorious for its harsh methods, sought to root out heresy and ensure religious conformity. Gap 3S. This religious fervor wasn't without its consequences. In the New World, indigenous cultures were suppressed, their traditional beliefs replaced by Christianity. Back in Europe, the Habsburgs' unwavering support for Catholicism led to prolonged conflicts, such as the 30 Years' War, which ravaged the continent and drained the empire's resources. Gap 3S. Yet, this deep entwinement of religion and state also fostered a sense of unity and purpose within the Spanish Empire. Art, literature, and architecture flourished under the patronage of the Church, leaving a legacy of breathtaking works that continue to inspire awe today. Gap 3S. In the end, the role of religion in the new Spanish Empire was a double-edged sword. It provided a unifying force and a sense of divine mission, but also sowed the seeds of conflict and division, both within and beyond Spain's vast territories. The echoes of this religious fervor can still be felt in the cultural and historical landscapes of the modern world. The success of the Spanish Armada not only reshaped political and religious landscapes, but also spurred remarkable technological advancements. The triumph at sea highlighted the importance of naval power, driving innovation in ship design, navigation, and maritime warfare. Gap 3S. Spanish shipbuilders began to experiment with new materials and techniques, leading to the development of faster, more durable vessels. These advancements were not limited to the military. They also revolutionized trade, enabling Spain to establish more efficient routes across the globe. Gap 3S. Navigation saw significant improvements as well. The need for precise and reliable navigation tools became paramount, prompting the creation of more accurate maps, compasses, and other instruments. This period saw the rise of renowned cartographers and explorers who charted unknown territories, further expanding Spain's influence. Gap 3S. The ripple effect of these technological strides reached far beyond Spain. Other European powers, eager to compete with the Spanish Empire, adopted and adapted these innovations, leading to a broader maritime revolution. This era marked the beginning of an age where technological prowess at sea became a critical factor in global dominance. Gap 3S. In essence, the Armada's success acted as a catalyst for technological progress, setting the stage for centuries of maritime exploration and conquest. The advancements made during this period not only solidified Spain's position as a world leader, but also laid the groundwork for future generations of explorers and innovators. Gap 3S. Today, we can trace many modern nautical technologies and practices back to the pioneering efforts of this era, a testament to the enduring legacy of the Spanish Armada's victory. The legacy of the Spanish Armada extends far beyond the realms of history and technology. It has also left an indelible mark on popular culture. The dramatic tale of the Armada, filled with intrigue, heroism, and high-stakes naval battles, has captured the imagination of artists, writers, and filmmakers for centuries. Gap 3S. From classic literature to modern cinema, the story of the Armada has been retold countless times, each interpretation adding new layers to its enduring mythos. William Shakespeare himself referenced the Armada in his plays, using the event as a backdrop to explore themes of power and ambition. Gap 3S. In more recent times, the Armada has been depicted in numerous films and television series, often highlighting the tension and drama of this pivotal moment in history. These portrayals bring to life the valor of sailors, the strategic brilliance of commanders, and the sheer scale of the conflict. Gap 3S. The Armada has also found its way into visual arts, inspiring paintings, sculptures, and even video games. Artists have captured the chaos and grandeur of naval battles, while game designers have recreated the strategic challenges faced by both the Spanish and their adversaries. Gap 3S. Beyond entertainment, the Armada's story serves as a powerful educational tool, helping to engage audiences with history in a dynamic and accessible way. Museums and exhibitions around the world feature artifacts and interactive displays that bring the era to life for visitors of all ages. Gap 3S. In essence, the Spanish Armada's influence on popular culture underscores its significance as a historical event. It remains a symbol of ambition, struggle, and the relentless pursuit of dominance, a story that continues to resonate and inspire across generations. Gap 3S. As we delve into these cultural representations, we gain a deeper understanding of how the Armada has shaped not only our history, but also our collective imagination. Gap 3S. The enduring fascination with the Spanish Armada ensures that its legacy will continue to be explored and celebrated in myriad forms for years to come.